All right, according to this, it is live. Volume is on. I'd refresh it one more time.
You
There it is.
swipe weird.
You said that yesterday.
All right, Eden, we're good. Let's go, kid.
Yep,
Okay.
I hear it.
And good morning, guys. Welcome to Coaching Over Coffee. Today's episode is on the Lucky Syndrome and lucky stuff like that. We have
Like puppies.
like puppies. Yeah,
I didn't know where you were going with that.
I didn't
I'm
either.
like-
This is what happens when you put me on the spot. Starting to my first right, we have Coach Dan, Coach Casey, and then Coach Ryan today. Who's
All
gonna get
right.
started?
Yeah.
Good.
Eden's like,
people
there, I
like-
gave the bare information. Casey, tag.
Someone else go.
People might be wondering what lucky syndrome is.
Yep.
So, lucky syndrome is when other people diminish or devalue your accomplishments or achievements by saying things like, oh, must be so nice to have X job or X amount of money. You're so lucky because of X, Y, and Z, but they're not really acknowledging all of the hardships that it took to get to that point. Do we all understand that?
Well, we're asking the viewership.
I was asking you three.
Well, we came up with the topic, so I think we probably understood it today.
We.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. Feisty this
Sorry.
morning.
Let me
Ve-
retract.
Very, very
We're gonna-
feisty
We're
this
going to have
morning.
to team up on this one.
I
All
got you.
right. So that leads me to my first question. What brought this topic onto mind? Because this was one of your brainchildren. Was it something that someone said to you a while back that kind of sat in the back of your mind and you were like, wow, that's actually not the case at all. It took a lot of hard work.
So I actually listened to another podcast that had a similar topic, and it wasn't, the entire podcast wasn't surrounded by lucky syndrome, but they talked about it, and I didn't quite understand what it was, so I started to do a little research, and I thought that would be a good thing for us to talk about. And I do feel like we hear that a lot when it comes to fitness, especially when people are comparing body image and things like that, of like, oh, that person's so lucky, you know, they have a six-pack or they have nice legs, they can run 5 miles, but they might not know that the person they're referring to lost 100 pounds over a 2-year span, you know?
I think I heard about it a lot last couple of weeks in this challenge. You know, I heard about some of the teams that are winning are doing X amount extra, you know, that are doing 20,000 steps. Well, I heard, well, that's good for them. I don't have time for that. Must be nice to be able to have the time to be able to come to a spinning class and then do this workout. I heard that, like in passing. I'm going to cough. That's where, like, I think my brain triggered when we heard this topic.
Yeah.
When it triggered for me, I thought two different things. I thought first and foremost, whenever someone talks about being a business owner or creating their own schedule, people will be like, wow, it must be nice to do this. First thing I think of is all of the unseen work that people, you know, they see the outer shell, but they don't see all the inner workings. They don't see the gears moving. And then the other thing I thought about was very similar to what you were talking about and what we was just discussed with any kind of athletic endeavor, where it's like, yeah, people being like, it must be nice to be able to do, go run 5 miles. Okay. That's not easy. And everyone at this table can kind of agree, but it's also all of the extra time that you're putting away, that you're taking away from other things. It doesn't make it lucky to not spend time with your family because you're doing something like that. Or if someone gets a scholarship, wow, it must be nice for them to be able to get a scholarship to go play like lacrosse or baseball, or all the hours that they missed doing other shit instead. You know?
Why do you think people do that? Eden, as you sit there with a blank stare.
Do like the stuff that they do. It's
Why do you think
overwhelming.
they diminish people's accomplishments?
Jealousy?
Okay.
I feel like a lot of people are jealous, like, because at the end of the day, it's like what you say, you get to, you don't have to. So I feel like a lot of people have the mindset of like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that. They don't actually like put themselves and be like, wow, like I wake up every day healthy, like I can go and do this. And I feel like that like separates like the people who like go get D1 scholarships for lacrosse versus girls who are like, oh, well, I wish I could do that, but I don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
they
feel
don't
like
put the
it's
work
that-
in.
Yeah.
Interested versus committed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of that boils down to that, though.
Yeah, for sure.
And one of the hard things to think about when it comes to this is you accomplish these things, and then all of a sudden it can be someone close to you, or sometimes it's that one's the one that hurts the most. Like the passerbys that say, "Wow, it must be nice to you." It's like you can kind of shake that off, but it's the ones who are within like your own, like, I guess, gravitational pull, where they say that kind of thing, and that's the one that hurts the most. Like you don't understand. Especially, let's talk about weight loss, because that's one of the things. It's like some people just doing a squat the first week and learning the form and doing all that is the most difficult thing. And then as they progress, and then the benefit of that is, losing weight and feeling stronger and feeling healthier. For someone to say that, it diminishes all those weeks of hard work.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever experienced somebody saying that to you guys?
Yeah.
Give an example.
When I got my apartment, actually, one of the first people I told it was a friend. And no congratulations, where is it, what does it look like? She said, how much do you pay in rent? So I actually lied, and I said a cheaper cost than what it actually was, because
Why?
I already knew where it was going. And that's a good question, because I wouldn't do that now, but I think I knew the direction of the conversation, and it was not going to be a positive one. And she was like, oh, I would never pay that much for an apartment. I was like, okay, well, sorry, it's not yours, so you don't have to worry about it. But that was like the first time, because I was thinking back, I knew this question would come up, and I was like, what's something that rings a bell? That was over a year ago, but I remember it.
It sticks out because I think it pains you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had this one girl in high school. I think I've told you about this maybe. Where like I always felt like I didn't feel like I was in a competition, but I feel like she was in a competition with me. And like it was always like, oh, what'd you do on this test? And she would be like, oh, well, I got this question wrong because this, like, always making and like comparing me constantly with her. And I was like, girl, it's okay. Like, we can be friends and not have to be in competition. I feel like that's just her personality though. But that, like, it always sticks with me. Like, I still am friends with her and I still know her, but like I had to like step back because I was like, this is not healthy for me to like
Be there.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
this the friend that used to like take your test before you
Yeah,
did
she
and
would
look at
literally.
it?
Okay, so I had history. It was a 10th grade not U.S. history, whatever, like global. I had lunch right before. It was 6th period. I would come back, drop my bag off, go to the bathroom. It was like a daily routine. Like the teacher knew, and he would put our tests on our desk and flip them over so that people wouldn't see our grade until we picked them up. Well, we sat next to each other because we were friends, and I would come back from the bathroom, and she would have flipped my test over and screamed about, like, as an information, she's like, Eden, you got an 83. I'm like, girl, what? Like, she's like, yeah, I got an 85. I was like, okay, like, I'm not, again, not in competition here. She would also cheat on her test, but that's a whole other thing, so.
Who didn't?
I didn't.
What about you, boss man? When have you had a moment where someone has said something? It doesn't have to be a specific.
I have one recently.
Recent. Okay, let's hear it.
It was actually one of the cleaning people here. He said something like, man, you got it made. You got a huge gym. You got a brand new truck. He said, you're so lucky. And I stopped him right there because I was like, you didn't see the 10 years prior to all of it. And I told him all of it. I was like, listen, like I've sacrificed and lost a lot in my life to have something that looks like this. And I think he retracted a little bit once you kind of know the backstory of it all. And I think that's the frustrating thing, is that nobody's like what it's to walk in your shoes some days, So I think I remember that one pretty vividly. I don't have friends that compare to me, though. I don't think they want this. You guys all laugh. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we laugh because we understand the lack of sleep and all of the other stuff and the stressors that people don't understand. Like, you can look at it from, the business side, and you can look at it from other sides. It's like you have to take from one pile of marbles in order to add to the one pile of marbles. And it's like, in order to do that, it's like, where's the luck in that? That's just decision making. And I think that's what people don't understand about must be nice or lucky syndrome, in that, dude, there's nothing lucky about making a decision. You're just making a choice to do one or the other.
I think people are really embarrassed or ashamed of themselves that they can't commit to something, and stick to it for such a long time to actually reap the rewards off the results. Like someone like running let's call it a 10K or a half marathon, or doing something crazy, or, I was trying to think about, like, you do your homework. I was doing my homework in my head this morning. are you supported when you move away to a different state to pursue a different career or a different relationship, or to leave a broken household, or to start this like dream job? Are you supported by everybody?
No.
But why? So it's not the lucky syndrome, but I think it's the opposite. I think, oh, must be nice.
Yeah.
Must be nice. I could never do that. Why do people do that?
I think it goes back to what you said, like jealousy. But I also, because I had written down envy, and I want to know, because I don't know if I can quite, like, you have a look on your face. So you must be excited. For this,
No.
but-
I was trying to, like, I'm glad you jumped in on that, because the first words that were coming out of my mouth were jealous bitches. Like,
But I want to know, what's the difference between like a jealous person and an envious person? Do we have a difference?
feel like
'Cause they're not the same.
Jealousy, they don't have the same mindset. They're like, wow, I like can't do that. I feel like envious, like they know they can, they just don't know how. Or like,
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like there's something to do with like that difference. You know what I mean? Like envious are like, I know I can do that, but like quick to judge. Like I feel like judgment, it may be something that they're very what's the word? Quick to do.
Whoa. Yeah. So what do you say to people? So we identify the situations happen. Yeah. Oh, you lost 25 pounds. I could never do that crash diet. I could never work out 6 days a week. I could never walk in the wintertime. So what do you say when someone approaches you about that? I think that's the hardest thing to figure out.
I think they're right. I know that sounds really mean to say, but it's like, okay, if you believe it, okay, you're right. You couldn't do it. And the reason why is it all comes down to internal versus external motivation. I'm going to try not to get all fired up about this. If you want something bad enough, you'll do it. Like if you really desperately want to get healthier, you can find avenues to do it. If you really wanted to walk in the wintertime, you can go to Dick's or Walmart, or you can buy cold weather gear. You can do that shit. It comes down to you just don't want to, and you want to find an excuse. And then when you see someone doing what you're doing, the first thing you want to do is tear them down. It's like, don't be jealous because you're not them. Maybe you should look inward and figure out why you're not you. I think that's like one of the big things. And as far as your question of what you say to them, nothing. Let them sit in their shit, because at the end of the day, they're going to do that with anything. You got a degree. Yeah, it must be nice to be able to, go away to Plattsburgh and, do all this stuff. How many hours did you spend studying?
A lot, but I'm like I get test anxiety, so I like constantly study.
But like, there's always going to be that that thing.
I don't see
there's
that.
the next thing. Nice truck. Oh, I wish I had a truck like yours. Okay, well, how many hours do you put in and all that other?
It was the first truck I've ever bought. That was mine.
See?
At 37.
And this is the thing that people, KC, you know what I mean? Like, you make your own schedule. It must be nice to be able to make your own schedule. Really? Really be you. And that's the thing that I think that gets me angry, and that's why I was really happy about this one today. Because it's like there's no luck involved. It's work. You either do it or you don't.
I think, is your stomach growling?
Yeah.
Are you hungry? The breakfast sandwiches aren't here yet. I think you do the complete opposite. I think you have to address it. I think you have to establish those boundaries so they don't keep happening.
Agreed. I've learned to challenge people a little bit more. So like, be quick to kind of cut them off, but in a way where I'm like, well, why? Why can't you do it? Who's telling you that you can't do it?
Yeah,
And
give me an
try to,
excuse.
what do we say, like, peel back the onion layers. So once they physically give you an excuse, then you take that excuse and try to figure out how to turn that excuse into some type of motivation. And I know we all hate motivation, but it always starts with motivation. It's what you do when that wears off that determines how far you'll go. So
I think it's valuing the question and saying like, hey, so why can't you do it?
yeah,
What's different from me than you? What are they going to say?
they probably won't know what to say.
But then if you put it back on them, I don't think that they'll ever say it to you again. And I think
Yeah.
not allowing people to have the power over you, because I think it diminishes everything that you've tried to work hard for. I think people, you allow that too much. And I think that's where they get emphysema. Somebody else talk. I keep coughing.
Okay, so how do you deal with family that is unsupportive or holds things like your success against you?
You go.
You want me to start?
Well, you just asked the question, so.
I know, because I was curious what you guys were going to say. I don't think I've learned how to handle it yet.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm still going through it, but I mean that's a therapy topic of how to kind of let go. I think I have learned to let go, but that's the first step is figuring out how to do that.
I think you have to prove them wrong first. I think that's a little chip on your shoulder that you have to have, because I think that unselfishly they don't want to see you fail. I mean, let's just face it. Nobody's like really, really malicious and saying, like, yeah, I hope this dream job that you're so in love with, I hope you fail at it.
Yeah.
So that way, hopefully, you get a normal job and you do whatever. I think you have to put a little chip on your shoulder to actually push you in the days where you don't want to.
Yeah.
But I also think you should stand up for yourself, because I think it'll kind of mold you into a person that you want to become.
Yeah.
Because when you can stand up to the people that are the closest to you, the people that don't really matter, that are kind of like outsiders looking in from your life that want to have an opinion, I think then you can say things that, you're not worried about what they're going to say back to you.
I like that.
Yeah, I do too.
What about you?
Stand up for yourself.
I feel like I'm still kind of in the same boat, like learning like how to stick up for myself. I feel like little day by day it gets better as I build confidence. There's certain like things, like asking questions, like almost when something is said, like being like, well, why, or something like that. I feel like that's where I'm kind of like learning to, instead of taking it to heart, like almost put it back on them and questioning them of why they don't believe or anything like that with my success.
What about the fact that they've already lived their lives? If they're older than
Yeah.
you, they've already experienced all that stuff.
Yeah.
They probably had to mess up throughout the way. And I think failure, we don't want people to learn and fail, but I think that's the biggest growth that we can ever go through.
For sure.
True.
But why don't we want to see anybody grow?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's like you guys play sports, right? And the kid that goes up to bat, right? Johnny strikes out 3 out of 4 times. Does he go up for the 5th and 6th time up? Hey, Johnny, to just keep your bat on your shoulder. Don't swing. You won't get out. You won't fail. But we don't want them to fail.
Then you don't succeed either. So
So what do we want? We either don't fail or we don't succeed. They got to go through like you said, got to go through this shit. And I think we all have to learn in our own way, because it's our own lives.
Mm-hmm.
They made decisions just like, we get a chance to make decisions.
yeah.
And I think that there's a part of it. I'm going to play devil's advocate on it. I think some people don't understand why we do it. But I also think, like with some of the goals, it might be too much for us.
They don't have to understand.
Yeah, and it's like, but I think that if we spent all of our time explaining why we did something, we would be giving out so much energy. It's like we talk about how to deal with family. It's like if you had to explain to everyone at a family get-together why it is you do what you do, you wouldn't be connecting with them. You would just be on the defense the entire time. I mean, I go back to our marathon. When we were doing training runs, and I had a family barbecue, and at the beginning of the barbecue, I had to go run 8 miles. And when I came back, people were like, didn't understand it. Mm-hmm. And then when I was posting about it, because that's what we were all doing, it's like they were talking a little bit of shit, and it's like that got to me until my nephew was like, "Nah, that's my uncle. Like that's what he does." It's like, okay, so I guess for me, it's like you're not going to change everyone's mind. But then again, also, it's kind of difficult, or at least I find it difficult, to try to explain why I do what I do all the time. Like,
Why do you feel like you have to be on the defensive or explain it to people?
because you would hope that people would understand why you do it, but if you feel like
Why do you think they would understand?
because if they grew up around you, especially like older people,
Who gives
like
a
they
shit?
see you grew up.
Yeah, it's okay, but you changed.
And I think that that's the thing, is that they don't see the change and they don't understand the change.
Sure.
And maybe
it's
that's
not up
why
for
it
them
goes
to
for them.
understand.
True.
And I think that's what we have to understand as people, is that it's not about anybody else, it's about you.
Yeah.
What do you say when you have a spouse that's not supportive? What do you say when you have, you have a family, sure, but what happens if it's the person that's the closest to you, that you share everything with?
No good answer on that one.
Everybody remains silent.
We all just are like,
Yeah, I just think that, there has to be this selfishness. In my opinion, I don't think selfish is a bad word. You have to figure out what are you going to do to make you happy.
Agreed.
yeah.
If you're not happy, then you're going to be miserable. Now you're not going to be happy to everybody else. You're going to go to that family barbecue, you're going to be resentful. You're going to come home from work one day and you're going to be resentful.
Boundaries. You got to learn how to set boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
And, now there's a question. How do you set boundaries? How do you specifically set boundaries? How do you set boundaries in order to not have those moments?
I think I had to distance myself from a lot of people. And then through the distance of just like kind of lack of communication, I learned I had stopped expecting people to ask me about certain things. Like when I made the career change and started working here, there were some people that were really close are really close to me in my life that were vocally not supportive. And they'll say they were supportive, but through their actions and their words, they were not. I used to get really upset because I would go to these functions and not a single person would ask me anything. And if they did, it was almost like poking the bear of like, oh, how much money did you make this week? I know we've talked about that. Of like, how many clients do you have? And almost like trying to get me to say like, oh, I'm failing and I can't do it. Obviously, I was never going to let that happen. And so I just stopped having expectations. So through setting those boundaries, I learned, okay, they're not going to ask. And honestly, it doesn't make a difference if they do anyways, because whatever they're asking me now, I don't really like. So I don't know. I would just say distance.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. I feel like distancing yourself is like the best solution in my eyes to start until a conversation arises
Yes.
with that individual. It gives you time to like sit and process like what they say and how you're feeling about the topic. So I've realized with friends, with family, just kind of going silent for a moment and then reassessing it down the road. I feel more comfortable with the conversation that's going to be had and giving myself time and grace to like I don't want to say not care, because obviously I do care if I'm talking to them about it, but there was like gaining respect for myself to going into the conversation and like standing my ground.
The path of least resistance.
I'm going to get a little fired up here.
Okay.
Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck what they all think? Who cares about their opinions? They're not in your head. I think I saw a stat. There's like 8,000 thoughts that you have in your brain.
Yep.
80% of those thoughts are the exact same day after day. You change your thoughts, but if you allow these people to be in your thoughts, that's your fault.
Yeah.
So why do we give two shits about what anybody else thinks about what we decide to do or whatever? Why do we put stock in that?
Well, I do think it's like human nature.
Stop
in
it,
some
though.
capacity.
You control
I
it,
know.
though.
I
You know,
agree.
like, who gives a shit? They're not walking in your shoes.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about anxiety, depression, you think about all the, like, mental health things that are caused by comparison or by thinking about what everybody else is thinking about you, and you can control your thoughts. Why the fuck do you think about what they're thinking about you?
What was the process that you learned to be able to do it? Like, was this a gradual
Just stopped.
What, did you have like a moment, like a coming to Jesus
I mean,
moment?
therapy really helped,
Okay.
but then like I don't think you just get sick and tired of it. Like I think I think you guys say distance, I say resentment. You know, you're resentful for the people that like, hey, they should be supportive of you and they're not. Well, guess what? I'm gonna go prove you wrong.
I feel like resentment, like,
It's a negative emotion.
yes, but it creates that distance.
Yeah, it does. It does. But I think like you have to have something in there that's going to fuel you to say like, hey, I'm not going to let it fail. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to let you tell me that I can't do something. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's motivation, because I think motivation kind of starts you on that path. Mm-hmm. But there's got to be some sort of gasoline that you dump on this whole process to make you keep going, because sometimes it sucks.
Yeah. I think it starts as resentment. Like, I definitely felt that in the beginning. I don't feel that now. Like,
No.
that's a negative emotion I've been trying to work on not feeling for a long time towards anybody, not even just in capacity to, like, the career change. But I agree with what you're saying. Like, I think it can start as that, and then you have to learn how to turn the resentment into, I don't want to use the word motivation, but
Fuel.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you start, if I can like figure out like the path that just happened, it's like you start motivated at something, and then someone comes along and does the must be nice, you're lucky thing, and it can either become resentment, or you can use it as fuel in order to throw into that fire that was already started by the motivation and just keep it going.
Yeah.
And like you said, you address it later.
What happens if you said it to
or you
somebody
nip it
else?
in the-
What happens
must be
if
not-
somebody said to you, is like, hey, you know what? Listen, I found the person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I'm gonna marry this person, and you were like, you know what? I don't think that person's the best person for you. How do you think that person would respond?
Yeah.
Hey, I found my dream job. I'm super excited about it. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah. It's like,
Imagine if you said that to them, and I think if you postured them to them and how they would respond,
Yeah.
why would you say that to me then?
yeah.
I think I do a great job of asking questions I already know the answers to, but I got to get them to say it first.
Yeah.
Hey, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Well, I would go back to school. I'd get a degree. I would do this. Okay. But what happens if you really, really wanted to do something so bad and you had 6 months to live? What would you do? Oh, I would go do it then. Well, put it on the other spectrum. You look super sleepy today.
I am super sleepy today.
But yeah, so I think that I shouldn't say I think. Do you think that thinking from that perspective, people don't do it? That's not their go-to hardwiring as far as like, would I want this said to me? Like it kind of goes back to the, if you can't say nothing nice, don't say nothing at all.
Well,
kind of.
bullshit. Then you don't establish boundaries then.
Okay.
Why does it always have to be nice when it's truthful?
I get
I guess that's an interesting perspective.
what, yeah, like it doesn't always have to be nice advice.
Why? Whose perspective is it nice? Are they being nice to you, not supporting your goals? So why should I posture back and say like, "Hey, is what you're saying to me nice?" Are you just don't have the courage to do the same things that I'm doing, right? Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to that. It goes back to that beginning thing where you were talking about, like, you know, I don't feel like everyone. I feel like the reason that people say that kind of shit to people is because it does come. There is an amount of courage that is involved in being
Sure.
able to follow your stuff, and not everyone has that level to be able to do it.
But there's a level of courage to tell people the truth and how you actually feel and voice your emotions too.
True.
Because I think if you hold them in, then I think that's one of the worst things that you ever will feel. Is I almost feel like you're muffled. Like you want to say something, you have the tape over your mouth,
okay.
and you want to say it, but you don't have the courage to upset them or hurt their feelings. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, because there's been plenty of times where somebody has upset you, and we won't say anything because we're fragile of how they're going to react to it.
People pleasing.
I mean, it uncovers so much into it, but I think if you go out and do it, what's the worst thing that ever happens? If that person decides that you're a bad person or they're mad at you,
You know that you're not.
right? But are they the best person that you should have in your life if they're not supportive of you?
No.
How do you know until you test it?
You don't.
And do you think inherently we don't like not we as a we-
Confrontation.
Yeah, inherently, do you think that we don't like that? Like
hate
we as a
confrontation.
people, like
don't
we as
know.
a society, do we not do? is
Some
it-
people,
Some
some people love it. They look for it.
Do you think that as a society, it's easier to be confrontational through a keyboard, or do you think it's easier? Like this is like these are things that like I think about where it's like people are easy to text. Like I had a client yesterday, so show me some shit on an Instagram. Like there was verbal, it was, started off as verbal sparring between two different schools, teams and everything. But then like I saw what was being done and I was like, wow, that is really weird. But then the conversation came because of the generation gap. Like back in my day in school, if something like that happened, chances are you just walk up and punch him in the fucking mouth. But then like there came that whole thing. This like went off from the whole "you're lucky" thing. But there came that divide where now you're able to say it from a distance, and it's fake accounts that people are saying the stuff through.
But why won't we say it to people's faces? Girls,
Scared.
what are we scared of?
I'm not scared.
I know, but what are people scared of? I'm not scared.
Yeah, that was quick. She's like, I'm not
scared.
scared. It's like, dude, puffs her chest out a little bit.
I'm not scared.
How people will react. The unknown factor.
Yeah, fear of outcome. I have an issue with that too.
What are you most fearful of?
I create really unnecessary scenarios in my head.
Sure.
Like elaborate, unnecessary scenarios that usually don't play out in my favor. But I'm getting better at that.
Usually, what's the scenario that's such a worst case?
What do you mean?
So if you fabricate this whole big story in your brain, what's the worst case scenario that happens in the end of the story?
I'm like a terrible person. Everybody hates
Sure.
me.
Sure.
That was
When you put your head on your pillow every single night, what do you think? Is that what you think every single night?
No.
Well,
I'm always wrong. Like actually 100% of the time, how I think it's going to play out is not how it plays out. So we're getting there, but baby steps.
what are things that you could practice for all this? So when somebody has like a jealousy and envious comment toward you, how do you practice it? You.
I don't know. I feel like
The opener.
something that I found very helpful was journaling. I used a lot of like journaling methods, especially in college and stuff like that. I still have like a journal too, just writing down my feelings and getting them out so I don't bottle them up, because I feel like bottling them up is not the best thing, because you're going to explode. Like there's going to be that one thing that's just going to and tip the bottle over and it's going to go. So I feel like journaling helps a lot, just because like that can help you, what's the word I want to use now? Like write down how you're feeling so that when you go and have conversations like that, you almost have like a outline of it.
Are you going to bring a journal with you as you have a conversation?
I would. I personally would.
I feel like
On
But-
January 23rd, I felt this way, and you made me feel this way on the 25th.
I actually see her pulling that out of the
Good.
bag, being like, explain yourself.
Right?
I actually have a technique
Receipts.
behind that though, with
Okay.
journaling that Dana taught me. She said that when you feel, because obviously that's a sign of anxiety, and she was like, when you feel that, take out your journal and write down 5 emotions that you're feeling. So don't write down the actual scenario that you're creating in your head, but write down what you're feeling in that moment, whether it's like fearful, angry, sad. Write down 5 emotions and then basically analyze the emotions. And even sometimes just stopping and writing them down, it forces that thought out of my head.
But it also makes you feel those feelings too.
Yeah, recognize them.
What do you do when, and this kind of goes off onto like, I'm going to go step by step with it. What happens when you say it, like you have voice your discomfort or unhappiness with said person that was envious? They've seen that you change. Now, how do you act? Because I think that that's also another piece to the puzzle that no one really knows how to navigate.
Like, are we talking forgiveness?
So
or-
like, hey, you know what? You establish your boundaries. There's a little uneasiness that you don't know how to act toward them now. How do you act after that?
Well, your actions have to align with whatever change you're on the path to.
Sure. So when you make all these changes and you're this new assertive person, right? And people don't like that about you, how do you continue to act? Do you continue to conform towards how they want you to be, or do you evolve and become the person that you want to?
You can evolve.
Evolve.
Yeah, it comes down
That's
to
the
evolution, yeah.
answer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is it comfortable though?
No.
Because I think you have people in the stands that are always going to be like, well, that Casey, she's a different person now. That Eden, she was so nice at 22, and now all of a sudden, she's a bitch. Right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah, is that the first time anyone has referred to you as that in person? Because you just got super red.
No.
took-
Okay.
No. I've been called worse.
She's like, you have?
Yeah.
Can't
Wow.
imagine that.
Who,
I mean,
who's
She's
called?
like our little unicorn.
I know, right?
it's so fluffy.
Unicorns are fluffy,
We were just talking about that the other day.
but no.
Oh, never mind then.
Which one? Zach and Cody?
Despicable Me.
I was just talking about that with someone. Was it you?
It was me.
Dan's crying.
Oh, I'm sorry. Eden's face was priceless.
Sorry.
No.
What time is it?
34.
34. Couple more minutes.
Couple more minutes.
You said you had like a trickle down. Was that it?
Yeah, I think like, okay, so you stand up for yourself, you become assertive, you have these boundaries, you voice your boundaries and your assertiveness, and then how do you act towards people once you've changed?
I don't think confrontation has to be a negative thing either, and that's something I'm learning. Like personal story, just because I think it's relatable. I had a situation maybe like a couple months ago, and it's all resolved now. So this was me learning that, again, those scenarios in my head are not as bad as I think they are. And we were definitely not on the same page and had not been communicating. I talked to you about it. This was like my absolute best friend since I was like 5 years old. and we weren't on the same page, weren't talking often. I'd gone down to the city where she lives, and we didn't see each other. I went and saw somebody else, and I didn't really make the effort because I was feeling like there wasn't an effort on her end either, and it just didn't work out. And after that, she actually reached out to me and was like, something is wrong. She wasn't attacking me, but there was definitely like some type of boundary up that I had never, like we never had an issue ever leading up to this point. I don't know why, we just vibed very well together. So I didn't really know how to handle the situation. And I was like, well, I can either do two things. I can lie and pretend that everything is okay on my end and try to just apologize and move forward from it. Or this is my opportunity to actually tell her how I'm feeling. Because I had been feeling a little left out. She moved to the city like 8 months prior and never like invited me to stay or come visit her or anything. So I was feeling away. She was feeling like I work all the time and that she didn't want to pull me away from work. So again, lack of communication. So we had a moment where we kind of just hashed it out, and it wasn't a negative interaction at all. Like as soon as I sent that text, she replied immediately and was like, I had no idea you were feeling that way. I'm so sorry. I wish you could have come to me sooner because I would have been open to it. And I was like, oh shit, like I need to stop doing this to myself. Because I fester. I think we all do that a little bit. When I feel a certain way, I don't speak up about it. And then it gets to a point where my emotions are like out of control and it starts affecting my life personally. So.
Oh, thanks for sharing that story.
Wow,
Honestly.
yeah.
Like,
Should I have not shared that story?
No, I think it was great.
Yeah, like that's because you like that is an example of how like exactly what you said. Like you were able to work through that confrontation just by addressing it instead of just letting it sit there.
And it wasn't scary like I thought it was going to be. So.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I think the things in your head are way scarier than the results that you'll actually see. Which going back to the beginning of this, where it's like you're so lucky, must be nice. It's like, well, I think people are scared to see those results in themselves too. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be, they're saying you're lucky, must be nice. Is their way, maybe a call for help? Maybe it's that call for reassurance.
Maybe it's just overall fear.
Yeah.
Like all this fear that you have in your head or people have in their head that what happens if they do it?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if they do succeed? What happens if they do get that dream job that they want? What happens if they move away?
Changes everything.
Yeah.
That's what's scary.
Is it scary though?
No, but we think it is. It's in our heads.
Why do we think it's scary though? I guess that's what boggles my mind.
It's not the norm, I don't think.
Like there was no part of my brain that was like, when we look at this space, I was like, oh my God, what happens if it doesn't work? There was no fear whatsoever. I don't know where that comes from. I just think it's like a stupid confidence that you have in yourself, or a confidence in the universe that whatever is going to happen is going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's supposed to happen this way.
I think maybe in
To trust.
Yeah, like, and I think it also comes down with experience. And maybe
Fuck, I didn't have experience.
you didn't have. Well, I
have experience with myself.
Well, that's the thing. I'll volley that. You did have experience. You had experience when you started the place in South Glens Falls. You had experience when you had the place in the
I
Queensbury
failed there.
Plaza. But what did it teach you?
Just trust the process.
Okay, so you trust the process, which made it not scary to be able to walk in here. But also, you're negating all the other stuff. Like you've talked about your time in New York. You've talked about your time in North Carolina.
Fail.
But how many times do you have to fail in order to get one success?
Over and over and over and over again.
Exactly.
But I'm not scared to fail though.
But why?
Just think
are
about
people-
think about this. When you guys all go out for a run, you guys have all ran before, and you didn't have a great run. You were supposed to run 5 miles, and you only ran 2.5. You failed.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Why'd you put on your shoes again and do it the next day? Why'd you do it again the next day after that? I'll never forget the story where I'm supposed to go run 10 miles. Right? And I put my shoes on, and everything in my brain was like, don't run today. You don't want to. Talking me out of it. I ran 0.28 and turned around and walked back. Mm-hmm. My ex-wife at the time was like, I thought you were supposed to run 10 miles. I was like, I got a cramp. No, I just didn't want to run. I didn't do it. I failed. But why is that a bad thing?
I don't think it is.
But why do we look at it like that, though?
Because that's how we've been.
Programmed,
Yeah.
brainwashed?
Conditioned.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Goes goes back to that education system thing. Like, stay mediocre. Don't
Get B's.
don't risk failure, and you'll never fail.
Sure.
And then when you see someone shooting for that star, just remind them that they're just like you.
Must be nice.
Yep. Lucky. Oh, you're so lucky to be able to go. You're lucky to be able to go run a marathon. I could never do that.
You're lucky. Hey, you guys are lucky to have dogs. I'm too busy to have dogs. Guys ever hear that? Oh, I wish I could have another dog.
I say that.
I just think it's a front that a lot of people put on, that they're scared of something. Perception of other people, failure. There's a whole laundry list of them.
Agreed.
So, how would you recommend someone start getting over that? Would we go to the tried and true therapy card and maybe tell people?
No, I think there's a lot of other resources out there. I think personal development actually is a very useful tool.
Mm-hmm.
Reading books, because I think for me, personal development helped me along the way because I realized I wasn't the only one that's done it like that before. Yeah. So you don't feel like this ostrich on Lone Island by yourself. You're not the only one that's ever gone through all this stuff. And then somebody gave me the best advice. Imagine you on your worst day ever. You guys all remember it? What was the worst day ever that you've ever had? Think about it. You guys have it in your brain?
No.
Think about the worst day ever. Worst day ever.
Do I have to
So
share it?
no,
Okay, good.
you have your worst day ever, but then you made it out alive the next day.
True.
The worst thing that you think, oh my God, I could never, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm okay the next day. You always will make it out alive until you don't.
True. All right, let's all give a piece of advice to close it up.
Look at Eden. Eden's walking around like this. Like that. Me? No, not me. Not me. Me? No.
I'll start.
Okay, good.
Go first.
Comfort zone.
I say start, but start small. One thing a day, just whether that's drinking more water, going for a walk, reading 10 pages. Just start small. You don't even have to be silent though. Don't tell anyone. Just do it.
All right, I'll go off of that because I feel like mine kind of goes with it. First, I'm going to read a quote. It says, "The company you keep will in many ways define the horizons of your life." So I think when it comes to sharing accomplishments and achievements, if you're not getting the reactions that you would like out of people, just stop telling them. It's not worth your energy. So when you say stay silent, do things in quiet, I feel like those go hand in hand.
Definitely.
You're next, Dan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, shit.
Oh, fuck.
No swearing.
I dropped
we
hard
blew.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. You know what? Believe in yourself. I know that sounds corny, but believe in yourself. Believe it when no one else believes in you. Believe in you.
That's all you have.
Yeah. At the end of the day, and your dogs.
That too. They always believe in you.
Yeah.
I don't have a fancy quote or anything like that. I just try to find something real quick to be prepared. I'm going to swear. Stop giving a fuck what people think about you. I think that's the root of everybody's problem is you're worried in comparison of like what car you're driving, what house you live in, the fact that you're 25, 35 and you're not married and you don't have this or that in your comparison to everybody else's process. It's your own process. Figure out your own lane. Do what you want to do. Learn. Live. Because like I said, man, I hate the advice. If you're going to die tomorrow, what would you do today? You wouldn't worry about everybody else, what they're thinking about you.
No, you wouldn't.
No, you would do the shit that you love, right?
Yeah.
Eden, let's close the show out, kid, okay? Let's do a really great job. Oh, God.
Alrighty, well,
Alrighty.
that is it for today's podcast. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Give this podcast a listen. I feel like it's very helpful. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We have some training to go do. I'm not good on the spot like this. You guys know that. Am I missing anything?
No, make
No,
sure you
give us
share
a
this
follow.
podcast.
Yes,
and
share.
Drop your favorite quote that relates to this topic today in the comments below because I want to read them. Love
Yeah.
a good quote. All right, scene it out. And scene. I've been waiting all morning for that. I forgot my headphones.